Wee! Isn't God good? Yes, He is. He is amazing. And you want to know something? I am so glad that our forefathers in the faith were not weak. They were not people pleasers. They were not looking for the acceptance of others. They just did what God told them to do. I have a great video coming, you guys. God has been revealing so much, and His mercy is, whew, it is amazing. But let me tell you something. Ministry, when you become a believer, everything you do is ministry. Because you are supposed to be a child of God. And I'm so glad that Moses did not approach Pharaoh and say, you know, I need you to like me. So I'm just going to ask you, maybe can you please let God's people go? Yeah, that would be great. And I don't want to offend you at all. Or did Moses go into the court of Pharaoh and say, let my people go? And he already knew that Pharaoh was going to harden his heart. Why? Because God had prepared him for what was coming. He knew that he was not going to be liked by the Egyptians. But guess what? Having favor with God outweighs having favor with man. So when Moses went before Pharaoh, he spoke with authority because he had authority. Okay? He understood his assignment. And what did Pharaoh do? Pharaoh did exactly what God said he was going to do. I'm not going to let them go. So then what did Moses say? Moses said, prepare yourself for the 10 plagues, because you're going to let my people go. And it went all the way to the death of Pharaoh. And through that whole journey, Moses stood on God's business. He never wavered to the left or the right. He wasn't confused when he went before Pharaoh and his magicians. No, Moses was like, God gave me this staff of sapphire, and I am going to perform the miracles of God in the presence of his enemies. And now they're my enemies because I am in covenant with God. God has told you you're not going to be liked. You're not going to, have a round of applause when you carry his Holy Spirit. They didn't like Jesus. Oh, they wanted Jesus to be quiet. They wanted him to be quiet. But guess what? Jesus was breaking chains. He was setting the captives free. He was telling the Pharisees what God really said. Do you think that Jesus was popular when he looked at them and said, you brood of vipers? You are of your father, Satan. Oh, but they had the script down. They looked like, a great Pharisee. They looked like, somebody that was on the up and up. And God had someone like John the Baptist who, he ate locusts and honey and he lived in the wilderness. God uses the things and the people that he calls to confuse the self-professed wise. If you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. You shouldn't even be a believer if you're worried about people pleasing, because you need to get to a point in God where your presence upsets those who God is upset with. We in America, we have come to a point where we do not let the elders of God be the elders of God. We want to kowtow and bow down to the babes. That is backwards. That is topsy-turvy. And that is the problem with the American church. Oh, well, we don't want to offend or upset anybody. And that's how come nobody's really learning or growing or experiencing God. Because everybody wants to water the word down when the word itself tells you it is offensive. Jesus told his followers, the world doesn't like me and they're not gonna like you. So if you want to be popular, if you want the easy way, I suggest you don't even sign on the dotted line of the covenant with God, because it doesn't work that way. Pharaoh unto death was pursuant of Moses and the people of God. And God used it to show his glory. He used it to show his glory. Now, I'm just glad that Moses wasn't a people pleaser. I'm glad that Moses had the tenacular fortitude, like my bishop says, to say what needs to be said, to rather have favor with God than with man. It is what it is, people. If these are the last days, it ain't getting any easier. Those that are called, be called. Stay strong. Don't stop. Do the work. The reward is in heaven. Be like our forefathers. How are you going to go before kings, but you don't want to offend anybody? Now, that doesn't mean that you seek to offend. That doesn't mean that you purposely try to offend. But when you carry the Spirit of God, you are opposite of the world. And you are opposite of those that are like Pharisees. Pray for discernment. Pray for discernment. Pray for strength. Pray for courage. Pray for boldness.